We're in business to save the planet, and we use making clothes to do that. The cure for depression is action. Every one of us has to step up and do what you can according to what your resources are.
All right, that was the voice of Patagonia's Yvonne Chenard, and this is Type 2, a podcast from Looking Sideways, in association with Patagonia, that explores the intersection between outdoors, action sports, and activism. In each show, I'm meeting people who are using their passion and involvement with the cultures we all love to try and create change. I've been discussing the issues they're involved in, the changes they're seeking to make, the difficulties involved, and the rewards that follow. My guest for this episode of Type 2 is Christoph Jorda. Christoph is a photographer who splits his time between commercial work that pays the bills and passion projects which see him pursuing unusual, fascinating, and sometimes shocking photo stories around the world. I first met Christoph last year in Norway, where I watched him talk about his work, and I decided there and then to get him on the show. Why? Well, because so far my Type 2 conversations have been with people who primarily are trying to inspire others to create change by joining a movement of incremental changes that, they hope, will add up to a larger system change. I'm thinking of people like Hugo from SAS, Jake from Protect Our Winters, and so on. And today, I'm speaking to a witness, basically, a storyteller who's using his talent and privileged position to operate on the other side of the debate. He's documenting the real-time effects of the crisis and the effects it's having, both on ordinary people like you and me, and on the environments we take for granted that are irrevocably and perhaps irreversibly changing. During our conversation, Christoph referred to this as a subjective and anecdotal approach, which I thought was a little bit harsh because documentarians like Christoph have always been an essential part of any movement for change. In doing this work, he's following in the line of the great photojournalist whose work has inspired him. His documentary approach, I would suggest, is essential in injecting emotion and humanity into a narrative that can often be at arm's length, really, or characterised by impossible to comprehend predictions and facts and figures that are a little bit abstract, a little bit arbitrary, and not that close to home, basically. Christoph is documenting the damage that's being done now and the consequences thereof, and as such, if you ask me, is a compelling voice in this entire issue. That's why I wanted to speak to him, and that's what we discussed during this episode. Hope you enjoy it. You good?
Yeah, very good. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, no worries. Thanks for making the journey. So you've been busy.
Very busy, yeah.
Yeah. So you were shooting an album cover yesterday. You were saying, yeah.
Yes.
So explain that to me.
I made a book about. It's called Bergmenschen. It's called Mountain People, and there's all kind of different people in it. Like most of them are like alpinists, famous alpinists, climbers. But also we wanted to mix it up with musicians, politics, actors who love the mountains.
Yeah,
and,
who have that in common.
Yeah, exactly. They have this one thing, the mountains in common, and but they're different, of course, different people.
Yeah.
And I met, because of that book, I met a South Tyrolean band. They're called Garnes.
Okay.
And there's two sisters, and they sing in a language only 30,000 people speak. It's Ladinish.
Because South Tyrol, so people speak what? Italian,
German. And in school they started to teach again in that original language in Ladinish.
Ladin.
Yes.
Right.
So
is that the only place it's spoken in the world?
Some of them are in Switzerland as well.
Right. So
but
these
it's
little,
very, very small.
Little pockets of communities still. And so this band sing in this language?
In this language.
Right.
And it's so beautiful.
Right.
And the photo I took of them, like Garnes, means like water women.
Yeah.
So, and I took a kind of difficult photo of them. I put the face into the water. So there's the reflection on the water.
Yeah.
It's hard to describe.
It's
like one
you,
is reality, the
you.
other one is Yeah, and we got along really, really well. So they asked me to shoot their new album cover.
Nice.
Yeah, and I had a crazy idea about going to a frozen waterfall and setting up a mirror, and they are reflecting in the mirror, and it was crazy. Like 2 days of work for just one photo, and we went up 2,600 meters to that frozen waterfall close to a little cabin, and it was crazy. But in the end, it worked.
Right.
It worked.
So how did you choose the people for the book?
The book was not my idea. It was the idea of Michael Ruland. He's the chef editor of the Bergsteiger magazine.
Okay.
And in the magazine, there are those kind of interviews.
So it's those profiles that have been collected into
Yes. And his big dream was to make a book like this.
Yeah.
And he asked me if I want to photograph it. And I was like he presented the idea to me, and it took me 5 months actually to say yes, because all of those people, they're so difficult to get, kind of, they're on expedition, they're on some kind of movie things, festivals here and there. So they don't sit at home and wait till you call them and say, hey, can I take a photo of you?
Yeah.
And I wanted to take kind of special kind of photos, like each photo is different.
Yeah.
And some of them are quite kind of difficult. It needs a lot of patience to get it, because I didn't use any Photoshop or anything. All the photos are real. So, and to photograph 30 of them, it's like a lot of work.
Yeah. Yeah,
and
right.
You don't make any money with a book. It's just for the heart,
Yeah,
to have a book. So this is why it took me 5 months to actually to decide, yes, I'm going to do it.
Right.
Yeah. And then we took us 1 year to photograph.
Wow, really?
Yeah.
So the payoff for you, like the reason to do it, is to sort of explore these creative ideas that you've just described. Like
also to sit down with those kind of people and spend, I said, at least I need 1 hour with you.
Yeah.
Otherwise I'm not able to take a photo, because you always see the relationship between the photographer and the model in front of the camera.
Yeah.
And just stopping by and say, let's take a photo.
Yeah.
It doesn't work.
Owen, that often does the pictures with me for the podcast, will be nodding his head at this, because it's always like, okay, you got 10 minutes to do the pictures now. And he's always like, what the fuck?
Yeah, I know what you mean.
Yeah.
So, and then it's like when you get the chance to sit down with Reinhold Messner or like the big names of climbing or actors and just talk to them and take a photo.
Yeah.
It's just an amazing opportunity that probably is just once in your lifetime. And I talked to my wife and said, I got this kind of offer, and it's going to be like a shitload of work. And I have to drive to South Tyrol just to take one photo and drive back again. Yeah. And she said, do it, because this chance won't come back,
Yeah. Well, it sounds like, from what I understand, for you, it's about finding the balance, right, between the commercial work that pays the bills.
Yes.
Because you obviously do a lot of that as a photographer.
Yes.
But then the projects that you're actually interested in.
Yeah.
So when you do a trip, how do you approach it? Because obviously you kind of visit in two destinations, aren't you? You visit in the destination that perhaps the authorities want you to see, and then you have the side of the country that you're obviously trying to document, which is the real life of that country. Yes. And in those countries like Iran, the gap between those two is huge, right?
Yes, definitely.
So how do you approach that? Because obviously that's a pretty sensitive thing to go there as a photographer and a journalist and try and... Is it difficult to kind of get the story that you want to get in that situation?
Definitely. But that makes it interesting. This is like, I always try to stay with host families. Yeah. So I have that connection, and I have somebody who's kind of speaks the language, and they also can tell me where to go, where not to go, what to do, what not to do, what is safe, what is not so safe. Yeah. And it's not that you walk around with your big camera and photograph everything. It's a lot of, we call it hip shots. You just have the camera somewhere and you just press the button, and hopefully there's one good picture, you know.
Right.
Also, sometimes I just put it on the back of my backpack, the camera,
Right.
and have like a cable into my pocket where I can press the shutter, and I
Okay.
just walk around and press the shutter, and people.
It's pretty risky then.
It is, yeah.
Because and you were traveling on a tourist visa.
Yes.
And was that was a conscious decision, presumably, to?
I'm always a tourist.
Yeah.
When you go to this kind of countries and say you are a journalist,
It's different.
no chance.
Yeah.
Like no chance.
Because then you get the other country, the official country
Yes.
that they want to show you.
Yeah. It's not why I go there.
Yeah. Of course.
I kind of always have to act like a tourist.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, there is still the police going around and checking and doing this and that, but they won't do anything to me, you know.
Yeah.
This is always the thing what you have to keep in mind when you're in this kind of countries. Like, I have the privilege to be a German.
Yeah.
It sounds stupid, but I'm kind of something better, you know, to say it.
Well, I understand. Like it sounds
like my country.
It's privilege. You know,
Yes.
we're privileged because if we travel, you almost have an extra life.
Exactly.
You know, you've got to get out of jail free card.
Yes.
You know, and
Yes.
and if when you travel to those places, you're aware of that.
Yeah.
And it is something that you feel like, wow, if the worst happens, I can kind of call on that, right?
My country cares for me.
Yeah.
You know, I'm not from somewhere in Africa.
Yeah.
Where, you know, and I experienced this in Lebanon. I wanted to go to the Lebanon to photograph the refugees there close to the Syrian border.
Yeah, which is another big theme of your work, and one of the
Yes.
things I was obviously really interested in talking to you about for
Yeah.
this. Like, so how was that?
And I was at the airport in Frankfurt, and just a couple of weeks before, I've been to Israel, and Israel is like the enemy of the Lebanon.
Yeah.
And I was just so bored. I just flipped through the pages in my passport, and a guy next to me said, "So where you want to go?" And I said, "Like Beirut, Lebanon, you know." And he said, "No chance." I said, "What? No chance?" And he said, "You have like a visa of Israel in your passport. They won't let you in." I was like, "Fuck, he's probably right," you know. And I just ripped out the page with the visa.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, I did. And I just hid it somewhere in my backpack. So I went to the customs, it's called.
Yeah.
And she was looking through my passport.
Yeah, through
And
stamps.
she looked all like every single page.
Yeah.
And then she discovered there's one page missing. So make a long story short, they just arrested me.
Really?
I got arrested.
Right.
And I was arrested for 24 hours.
Right.
And I was the only white person in there in that jail. I was surrounded with like all kind of African states from Senegal and Congo and after 12 hours, no food, no drinks, no nothing. I just knocked on the door and said, "Hey, could you please have like a water or something or an apple?"
Yeah.
And they were like, "Oh, okay." And they gave it just for me.
Yeah.
So the black person just knocked on the door, the African. They opened the door and just closed it again right away. Like they weren't able to speak, you know.
Yeah.
When I had to pee, they kind of guarded me with the Kalashnikovs to the toilet, looked that I do my business, and back again if somebody from the African or a refugee just knocked on the door.
Yeah.
Opened, closed again. And I was like, and it's still so difficult for me, you know, to have those kind of, just because I'm white, just because I'm from Germany, it's not my fault. It's just the pure luck to be born in the right place at the right time, you know. And we are all human, you know, and this is just still so hard for me to accept.
So is it because obviously you've done a lot of travel and documentary trips basically around the Mediterranean basin, right?
Yeah.
Egypt.
Yeah.
Lebanon you mentioned.
Yes.
So is it to document this other experience that you're describing? Was that part of the motivation for starting to do these trips?
the motivation to do those kind of trips. Since I've started photography, I've always been interested in like the war photographers, you know, the documentary. It's like, for me, that's the Champions League of photography.
Yeah.
Doing this kind of stuff. I always looked at those kind of photos. But also I have the other side. I grew up in the mountains. So of course I'm taking pictures and I have the ability to do like the ice climbing and skiing and blah, 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 blah. So I have both of these sides. And the motivation to do these kinds of things for me, we more and more live in this media world, you know, and me being a photographer, I'm this kind of media guy. And with that, I have this kind of a certain kind of power, you want to call it. And with this power comes for me responsibility to use my talent for something useful. Yeah. And to educate my family, my kids. Yeah. And who else is interested in my stories and my experiences. Yeah. To do some work that has a bit of meaning and exactly,
and will make a difference.
You know. And I started the refugee project in 2014, and then there was nobody interested in refugees. They were like, huh? Yeah. And
so what was the idea? What did you say you started the project? Was the idea literally just to go to different places and document the reality of where these people have come from?
What does it mean?
What the experience is?
Yes. What does it mean? What's their stories? Also to give back some of their, I think, you know, in the news, you only hear like the numbers. Yeah. 800 here, 500 drowned there. Yeah. So I wanted
600 migrants drowned today.
Yeah. So, you know. So, yeah. So, and next news is FC Bayern München lost. Oh shit. You know? You know. Yeah. And I wanted to go there and to show and tell what's really going on.
To humanize the stories.
Exactly. Yeah. And to show what's really going on the European border. Yeah. You know, and also to give those 400 people that just drowned a name and a story and a face.
Yeah. Because like you say, it's not far away. It's like
just around the corner.
3-hour flight.
Not even. Yeah. You know, like this last summer, I've been with my family to Spain just for surfing trip and being in the beach, and I just went for a run on the beach and you're in this little tourist thing and you run for 5 kilometers and suddenly you find like boats, you find those how do you say that, the boats you can
inflatables. Yeah.
You see them all over the beach. Yeah. You're like, what is going on here, you know? It's like it hits you so bad. Yeah. Yeah.
So where have you traveled to document?
I've been to Melilla. It's like the Spanish enclave on Moroccan country. Sure. And Melilla and Ceuta, both are Spanish, and this is the only true land border between Africa and Europe. Right. So, and there are two kind of refugees. The boat people. Yeah. They still have the money to pay somebody for a boat and try to make it over the Mediterranean Sea. And the poorest of the poor, which got like robbed or kidnapped or whatever along the way, the only chance is to try to climb that fence. Right. You know. Yeah. And they hide on a mountain. It's called Gurugu. And they hide till they get the chance, till they see a chance to climb over that fence. Yeah. And I've been there 2 times, like each of them like 10 days, and I stayed with I stayed in Nador on the African side with a priest. He's a priest in an Islamic country, so that was kind of difficult, but he illegally helps those refugees not to cross the border, just to make it a little bit more human for them, to bring like blankets or food or whatever and through him I got the access. Just 1 hour. Like took me 5 days to spend 1 hour with the refugees up on the mountain. Right. To talk with them, sit down with them, and take some photos, and then they said, "Okay, now it's better to go leave again." Yeah.
And was it difficult to gain trust?
Yeah, but I was more afraid. Like, I walk up there, I'm a white person, I have a expensive camera, and there's that camp, and I went to the Cameroon camp.
Yeah.
And there are 40, 50 people, just all black people, speaking French. My French is not the best. So I was very, very nervous to go up there. And I didn't tell anybody where I go, so the people at home don't know, they don't get in trouble.
Yeah.
So I went up there, but it was like, they're all like so happy to see me. I brought them some soccer balls, the Germans bring potatoes, of course, I brought them some food, I brought them some water, and then it was all right.
Yeah, I mean, it's always the same, isn't it? Your worst fears are never fulfilled because people are the same wherever you go all over the world, and presumably they would just glad to meet somebody that's going to treat them like another human being,
Yeah, and they when they say a white person, white people, it's like, then they are in danger. The police hunt them, and it's really, really bad what's going on there. Yeah. So they were more afraid of me than I was afraid of them. Yeah. At the end, So. And
you've obviously spent a lot of time in Egypt as well, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So how many times have you been over there?
Oh, I don't know, 8 times, 9 times.
Okay.
So
always to the same place?
Yes, always the same place.
And you've got good relationships there now, right?
Yeah. It was kind of in the beginning of my career, I wanted to do something like something really, how to say it, it's something really impressive. I wanted to go where it's like really dirty and dangerous and blah. I want to.
Well, you mentioned the war correspondent thing.
Yes, I wanted to be.
There's a glamour to that, isn't there?
Exactly, I wanted to be somebody like them. So I discovered a small NGO, and they are taking care of those garbage people. Yeah. So there's not a working garbage system in Egypt. So the poorest of the poor, they collect the garbage, and then they bring it to their garbage city, and the women like sort them out, select it, and then they sell it again. And those little villages are illegal. Right. And like how they live there, it's like basically living on a garbage mountain, Yeah. And I went there, I don't know when, 2011 or something, the first time. And when I saw it for the first time, I was like, okay, this is going to be a subject I want to photograph for the next years. So I went there with a small NGO, and when I was there, I already started to set up my own kind of structure. I wanted to have a car. I wanted to have a place where I can stay. Yeah. So I can come back alone, just with a translator. Yeah. So I'm kind of independent and can do whatever I want.
Well, it goes back to that thing we were talking about earlier. It's like try to find the story that you want to tell rather than the story somebody else wants you to tell, isn't it?
Yeah.
So, and you've met a family there, right, that you're close to? Is that right?
Yeah. The first years I had the chance to stay with a host family. Yeah. But they are Christians, and I think 6-7 years ago, they left because it was too dangerous for them as Christians. And but now I have my own apartment that I can stay. And I found this one family. They're really poor family, but they kind of have that kind of certain, how to say it, dignity. Yeah. Yeah. And they're really friendly, And over the years, I gained a lot of trust because I visit them all the. So my big dream was to spend like 24 hours with them. Right. Yeah. It never worked because every time we said, okay, now we do it, it was too dangerous for them. Okay. Because as I said, it's not always for me dangerous to be there. I always have to be careful about the people I meet. So when I leave, all the village knows, hey, what is this white guy doing there with a big camera, blah, 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 blah. So I kind of put them into dangerous situation.
Sure.
Yeah.
So you have to be sensitive about how much
exactly.
you put them in a compromising position.
Exactly.
Basically.
Exactly. And it's also a place, where you can't just go and, hello, I'm a photographer from Germany.
Hey guys.
just act normal and just pretend I'm not here.
Would you mind posing over there?
It doesn't work,
Yeah,
I want
course,
to have the real life. And
Yeah.
this is why I keep coming back and back and back. Also to see how the economy is changing of Egypt, how what the politicians are doing.
Yeah.
All this kind of stuff. Yeah.
So how has it changed?
It's getting better.
It is getting better.
It is getting better.
Okay.
Yes.
Right.
They have done some illegal stuff to get some water and some power, and it's kind of getting better. Yeah.
Yeah. So as a journalist and a photographer and somebody who's used to selling stories, part of your job is to find a story. Have you been able to get any interest in these stories from, what you might call mainstream media?
No, because I don't want, I'm more interesting for myself to take those photos and to find those stories than make money out of it or marketing them in whatever kind of way. And it's getting more and more difficult to tell those kind of stories because the magazines, they depend on their commercial advertising in their magazine.
Yeah, it's less of a space for it, really.
And if there's a big company, let's say Adidas, and they want to have a whole page of advertising in the magazine, and then you have garbage and babies with flies in their face and dying people, and then you flip around and then it's the happy life of Mercedes-Benz or whatever. Doesn't work.
Sure.
So, and I also want to be independent. I went to I was one of the first on the ground when the earthquake in 2014 happened in Nepal.
Yeah.
And some kind of news agency kind of figured out that I go there.
Yeah.
So they were calling me, you need to go there, we need this and this photo. And I said, no.
Yeah.
No, I want to, I just do this for myself. I go there for myself, and I don't want to have any agency or whatever customer telling me what to do or where to go.
Yeah.
Yeah. But with this kind of stories, I go to schools, to speeches. Sometimes I do an exhibition.
Yeah.
And just tell my experiences.
Yeah.
What I've experienced.
In the way that tells the story in the most honest way.
Yes, definitely.
So obviously one of the predictions of the climate crisis is that there's going to be more refugees, basically.
A lot more.
Yeah. In the time that you've been doing this, is that something that you've noticed changing? That there are more, that this is becoming more of a problem due to this factor?
Definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, right now, the UNHCR estimated there are about 70 million people are on the run, 2/3 of them because of the climate change.
Wow.
They estimated in 2030, in 10 years, there will be 400 million people on the run.
From 70 million?
From 70 in 10 years to 400 million.
Wow.
The EU, with the Brits, they have 500 million.
Yeah.
Just imagine how many people are going to be on the run.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And are you seeing any change in the way that authorities are trying to deal with it, or is it still basically put up fences and hope the problem goes
holding
away?
them back?
Yeah.
Making dirty deals with dictators, with people we usually, as the EU, don't like.
Yeah.
To hold them back. Hold them back. Yeah.
So can you see, obviously in experiencing these situations and documenting them, is there any positive things that you see? Apart from, I don't mean just the people, obviously, but just the wider political situation that we're describing. Is it possible to be positive about that situation?
I hope the only positive situation I see is the next generation growing up with this kind of issue or a problem. And I think it's going to be the climate crisis, the refugees. It's going to be the biggest challenge the world has ever faced. And I think Like I'm already teaching my son. He's 3 now. I'm telling him about the stories that kids don't, that they have to eat garbage. They don't have water. Blah 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 blah.
Yeah.
Just to educate them, and I hope this is that our generation now has to educate them and make them more open-minded, and also like what I want to see is that the people at least once in a lifetime travel to that kind of space or place and experience it firsthand, because this would open their eyes and make them more open-minded, and also appreciate more the life they live here in Europe, in Germany. This is sometimes, it makes me really sick when I hear people complaining about this and that, like small things. It's just like first world problems. And you just came back from a trip, and
I didn't get the snow that I wanted in Japan.
Exactly. It's like it's like when you talk about that thing,
grab me the world's tiniest violin, please.
Exactly. So this is, of course, I'm a skier, and I want to have good snow.
Yeah, of course.
So, and when you go in the mountain, you're like, it could have been better, But then on the other hand is, look around. At least we have the comfort to be like angry about bad snow.
Yeah.
How crazy is that?
Yeah.
Well,
the things we take for granted, sometimes, because obviously where you've been visiting, water, I mean, it's a problem. Clean water. And then occasionally, I walk past my neighbour yesterday who's literally got a hose pipe pointing at his car, and water's going down the drain, and he kind of,
and it's drinking water.
It's worth remembering sometimes.
Yes.
What a privilege that is to.
We are swimming in drinking water.
Yeah,
that's crazy. That's so crazy. Like, when you go to a garbage area or like where there's no water at all.
Yeah.
Nothing.
Yeah.
Nothing. And we swim in it.
Yeah.
We flush our toilet with drinking water.
Yeah. Or we make fake snow with it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that leads quite nicely to, so we met in Norway last year, obviously. And, you gave a really great presentation about your work. And one of the things that you've also been documenting is climate change in the mountains, right? So, maybe if you explain what that looks like, because there's a few elements to this, isn't there? Like with the work that you've been doing.
The glacier thing, you mean?
Yeah, well, there's the glacier thing, and then you documenting like the resorts as well. And So the glacier thing
started with the glacier thing.
Yeah, which is, first and foremost, just incredibly striking images that you've created with your brother, right?
Yeah, it's my brother.
Yeah, so could you explain a little bit about that?
So my brother is a kind of semi-professional snowboarder.
Yeah.
And we are identical twins, so we are a perfect team in the mountain. So without talking, we come to a location and we know, okay,
right,
this has to be done.
Yeah.
We went to the Pitztal Glacier. He discovered like a huge ice cave there, and he said, let's go there, we need to take some photos. And like we made like we found that crazy cave and had like artificial light and made like a very nice photo, I would call.
Yeah.
And it was also a door opener for my career. And this photo has been like everywhere, National Geographic and blah, it went around the world.
Yeah.
So, but my brother, he said, that photo is not good. He could be better here and there, and the hand needs to be a little bit more on the board.
I don't like my backhand.
Yeah. And the hand sticks out.
Can we go reshoot
And he
that?
was like, let's go back. And I was like, dude, what you want? It's like everybody loves it. And he's like, no, let's go back. So 6 weeks later, we came back to that same location.
Yeah.
And it was gone.
Right.
It was in February, and it was gone.
It was literally gone.
Thousands of years old glacier ice. It's like a cave, it's like a cathedral.
Yeah.
Broke together. It was gone. Melted away in February.
Right.
And we both stood there. He has kids. I have kids. And we're like, what the fuck is going on?
Yeah.
It was like the first time it kind of really hits me in the face. Like, it's real.
Yeah.
It's real. Growing up in the mountains. And before that, you heard about climate change, and you're
Yeah.
like, you have a bad winter, you have a good winter. It's always been like this.
Yeah.
But now you go to almost 3,000 meters, and the ice cave collapsed in February because it's too warm.
Yeah.
And we're like, okay, now we have another mission. Like, we use the glaciers for like extraordinary locations and make those nice photos. But also we want to document that world because it's melting very, very fast, and our kids won't be able to see it. So now we have that kind of two missions.
So you've been finding these locations.
Yes.
And a lot of it's like pretty gnarly, right? You know, you're having to kind of like basically, you know, it's like abseil in and like, you know,
Yes.
put yourself in precarious, you know, tricky situations,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
And again, is this something that you're doing for personal, you know, to show in your own way, or have you tried to? Because you said that the press picked that up, like National Geographic, and
Yes.
when you added the other element to the story, did people take notice, or was it?
First of all, I do it for myself.
Yeah,
Just to freak out a little bit, you know, just to do whatever I want with my camera and with my
I
talent.
mean, what project? I mean, it's brilliant. You know, it combines everything that you love, right?
Yes,
You know,
exactly.
documentary,
Yes.
Photography, and then the technical challenge of it, and
And being in the mountains with
Yeah.
good friends, you know, and also, as you said, it's sometimes kind of dangerous to go there.
yeah. I mean,
So
that's it.
like the friends are
I showed one of them to
your
to
life
our
insurance, you know.
I showed one of them to our friend earlier, and he was a bit like, Jesus, like, you know, because it is gnarly. Like it
Yeah.
looks
Yeah, we just went in January again
right.
and went back to the same place. Gone. Not a
Right.
single ice cube is there anymore.
Is it always that way then? Like,
Yeah.
so every time it's gone.
It's so crazy how fast that melts.
That is actually
This
pretty
is
terrifying.
It is, and you know, when you keep coming back each year or
Yeah.
twice a year, then you actually see how fast it melts.
Yeah,
You know, and it's so crazy.
yeah,
Yeah. And I just do it because I want to.
yeah,
It's just, I'm not thinking about selling it or anything. I just want to make those crazy, nice photos and also documenting it. And
Yeah.
afterwards, I'm not very good in selling my photos. You know, I'm better in making them.
yeah,
I'm not a good salesman. So I just have them and then, yeah.
yeah. And then the other thing that you showed on that trip was like how resorts are kind of
Yeah.
tackling this,
Yeah.
which was the thing for me that, like, you know, a lot of the things we talked about are about people pretending this reality is not happening in a lot of ways.
Mm.
And that for me was, I mean, you know, I spent my life in ski resorts
Yeah.
and taken for granted, you know, I mentioned snow cannons earlier,
Mm-hmm.
and you do just take for, you know, if you've spent a lot of time in the mountains and you've spent a lot of time in resorts, you kind of take it for granted, a lot of that stuff. You take for granted the fact that there's these crazy infrastructure everywhere, and
Yeah.
they shouldn't be there, basically.
Yeah.
You know, people have put those things in, yeah, whatever. But then when you see like how they're, so if I'll let you explain. So
Yeah.
basically you're documenting how resorts in the summer are trying to
Yes.
counteract
Yes.
this. So how
Yes.
does it, what are you seeing?
Destruction.
Yeah.
It's on the moon. It looks like on the moon, and it's like a big destruction site, you know. And as you said, you always see it in summer, in winter time, and it's covered in snow,
Looks
and
great.
everything looks nice
Looks
and
fine.
easy.
Yeah.
And if you're there in the summer, it's like those, how you call it, the big machines, bagger. No, yeah, everywhere, and cranes and noise and it's like a huge. It looks like they're building like a skyscraper there.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
it's crazy.
And it's all to keep the resorts in place, basically. Because
Yeah.
am I right in thinking like one of the places you went is to prepare for the race for this?
Yeah, it's in Ötztal. It's
Yeah.
in a certain glacier,
Yeah.
and there's like this. They ski on the last little bit of ice there,
Yeah.
and it's like the World Cup piss there,
Yeah,
slope
yeah, yeah.
there. Yeah, but they have one problem. It goes to the right, you know, but the stadium is on the left. So what they do in the summer, they just a whole summer, they try to like build ice into the stadium, with
Right.
big machines. They try to so they can have the race in the autumn.
Yeah,
Yeah.
which
And
is insanity,
It
really,
is.
isn't it?
It is. It's absolutely crazy.
Yeah.
How much energy you waste there
Yeah.
just to have one race.
Yeah,
It's for me, it's not understandable.
yeah.
It's
Well, but like, I guess it is real and it is happening, but kind of like in a way, when you look at it in this way, I almost feel a little bit complicit in a way, because you just do accept it. You do accept as a mountain user that this is like normal. Like,
Yes.
hey, fake snow. I mean, I remember being in Morzine in the French Alps
yeah,
about 5 years ago at Christmas, and there was no snow.
yeah,
There was literally no snow,
yeah,
and they'd created one piece like around the whole mountain.
yeah.
And all the locals weren't allowed to go up the hill because there wasn't the capacity. So
Really?
yeah, so all the locals' season passes didn't work. So they'd prioritize tourists. Yeah, and we had friends there that were living there for the winter. They just couldn't go up the hill basically.
Yeah.
And I went up there and you were queuing for like an hour to get on a chairlift, and I was just a bit like, let's just not go snowboarding.
Yeah. Yes.
At some point, surely you have to accept that, like,
Yes.
you can't. Let's go for a swim.
Yes.
Let's just do
Yeah.
something different.
Yeah.
It's like, no, we're going to do this.
Yeah.
We're gonna.
Yeah.
It wasn't fun, really.
Yeah. But I just heard that the worst part on going to those big resorts is actually the car drive towards it.
Sure.
It's like, I think spending one day in a big ski resort is just like equals 27 kilometers driving your car.
Really?
Like the energy for the chairlift, for the
As an
snow cannons.
individual?
As an individual.
Right. So that's
So
your
the
carbon.
worst part is like driving to the ski resort.
Yeah. So your carbon footprint
Yeah, exactly.
is high.
Yeah.
If you're a user of the resorts.
Yes. Yeah.
So where can people see your work that we've talked about?
On the website.
Yeah.
Or a little bit on Instagram.
Yeah.
I'm not that big in social media, but
you put your work up there, right? So
yeah,
the things we've
once in a while.
the things we've described.
Yes.
Recently there's a lot of portraits from the book.
Right now that's portraits of
Yeah.
the book, but now I start with the glacier thing again. I just talked about in January. There's some
Yeah.
nice images. I will show them. But I also, if people are interested, like in March, I go to Innsbruck to speak in some schools
Yeah.
I'm not a climate activist or something, I don't have the knowledge, but I just tell firsthand experience.
Yeah.
And this is, I think, also what the people like. I went to Patagonia, Innsbruck, and did a speech there
Yeah.
about it was the extended version of the Norwegian.
Yeah. The one that I saw. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. It's like a 1.5 hour speech.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, it blew me away. Obviously, as you can tell, I was kind of lost for words at some of it, really. And the thing is, it's pretty obvious, especially like the mountain stuff, the ski resort stuff. It's there in plain sight.
But like the funny thing is, I've never really thought about it myself. It was not my idea, We met in the Lofoten and the Norway thing with the Patagonia snow action camp, and I got a call from Patagonia, and they said, "Do you want to come?" And I was like, oh, "Of course. I've never been to the Lofoten. Let's go."
Yeah.
And I always thought I should go there to document it, to photograph it, so they have some photos.
Yeah.
And then 1 week before I left, Hannah Bailey said, "So how long is your speech?" And I was like, "What the hell are you talking about?" I was like,
Cheers, Hannah.
What's going on? And she said, you have. She looked on my website, and she said you have like the glacier things, which are melting. You have like the refugees. You have the poverty. You have everything, like all the facts of climate change. And I was like, damn, you're right.
Yeah.
You're right. And then I asked her, "So what do you want me to do?" And she just said, "You are there to inspire." And this kind of stuck with me, you are there to inspire.
Yeah.
Yeah. And since then I'm like doing this kind of speech and showing my work and telling the stories.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So where's next?
Next, I have to make some money.
Good
I
point.
do some tourism stuff.
Yeah.
to make some money to do some other trips again. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then doing some more mountain stuff. We go back to the glacier. Still some work there. And then in April, I gonna leave with my family for 3 months, road tripping Spain, Portugal, surfing.
Nice.
And spent like with the most important thing in life with a family.
Yeah.
Say like for 3 months.
That sounds fun.
Like fuck it all.
Yeah.
Now
yeah.
it's family time.
Great.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for doing it, man.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, it's great. Thank
Yeah.
you. So there you go. That was my episode of Type 2 with Christoph Jorda. Hope you found that one as insightful and as inspiring as I did. My thanks to Christoph for making the effort to come and see me in Munich on that day, and to my friend David Benedict for lending me his flat so we could record the episode. Nice one, David. Great to see you. If you want to find out more about Christoph's work, best thing you can do for that is go and check out his website, christophjorda.de, or over at Instagram at Christoph_Jorda. Nice one. As you probably know by now, I release new episodes of Type 2 every month or so. They appear in my usual Looking Sideways channel every 4 weeks. You can subscribe to that via Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. If it's your first time checking out what I do, make sure you get stuck into the back catalogue. There's well over 100 episodes of interviews with some of the biggest names in action sports, and I'm building a little catalogue of Type 2 episodes over there as well. If you want to check the back catalogue of this little stream. Nice. Thanks for listening. I'll see you next time. Nice one.